speaking. My name is Thea Derks. I'm a music journalist specializing in music from 1900 onwards. I would like to introduce you, although you probably have known her and seen them already, Annika Socolofsky from the United States. Your name's Matthew Ricketts from Canada. Your name Jenny Beck, also from the States. And you're Gen Tanaka, klemtoon op de tweede lettergreep, from Japan. Welcome, nice to have you here. And thanks for all the wonderful music we heard tonight. All of you have written a new piece. Today I heard several. Your piece was not written for tonight, was it? Unset, how old is that piece?
Unset is from 2017.
2017, yeah. So that's 4 years old. Because you told me before we had this talk that it was nice to have many pieces performed here in the festival, so you could have a retrospect. So what do you think of your piece in retrospect?
Oh, I should have known you were going to ask that since I set that up in my message to you. What do I think in retrospect? Well, I guess when you hear older pieces, you think of what you might change if you could do it now. But I'm not really one for revising things after the fact. It feels a little bit like photoshopping old family photos or something to make them look different or better or more modern. So it's at this point, it's if I can be so grandiose, it's a historical document. So I kind of want to leave it like it is. I would do things differently now, I think, even just 4 years later. But yeah, it's interesting to view it from a few years' distance from when I was writing it. Yeah.
About revising pieces again, I think you are one for revising very much. Sure, yeah. So how come?
Well, I'd say I keep revising things because I still feel quite new to all of this, despite having been at it since I was 18. And the more I write, every week that I write, so much is revealed to me about how I could be doing things and what works and what doesn't. And I think also, so that's the simple, straightforward answer. I think more interestingly, there's this thing about it's often very, very difficult to have an objective, to maintain an objective perspective on what you're working on and what you have worked on, because it's so personal and you've spent so much time with it. And within this medium of composition, what tends to be is that, it's a performative platform and a piece is performed and so many people hear it for the first time live. They have that novel first-time experience. And, we don't.
So, but if you're not quite satisfied with a piece, you could write a new one, like you do, and say it's historical, so I've learned from it, and now I'll change, I'll do a different thing. So why do you revise a piece you already have written?
Right. I think that's because distillation is a really key concept for me, and I also think that increasing your repertoire with dozens of pieces, it doesn't really mean too much to me. It's just I want to, at least at this point and at this age, I want to make something that is really special and true and sincere and rare. And I think a part of me feels like the fastest track to that is to keep working on the same thing as opposed to starting fresh.
Until you have the ultimate,
the ultimate distillation of that core thing.
I see you nodding very much, Jenny. I heard you, when you prepare writing a piece, you already more or less visualize it or feel it. You're nodding very much. How do you relate to this?
Well, I relate to what both of these people just said. I think it depends on the piece. For me, there are pieces, I guess I've only gone back and really revised a couple of times, and both times I've just completely dismantled the piece and, made it a new thing. So, and I didn't mean to do that necessarily. So I don't have a stance on this. I think I usually end up agreeing with Matthew with like, okay, I've done this. There are things that I will do differently in the next piece. But I also, maybe as time goes on, I think I might end up revisiting some pieces so that, I can, if I have this piece, I can say this is the best version of this piece that I can make. I think it depends on the piece.
And you, Annika, you performed your own piece this night. You write Rager lullabies. How did you, start making them and also singing them, performing them yourself?
Yeah, so the one you heard tonight was actually the first one I ever wrote, and I've written 11 of them now. And I have always been really drawn to lullabies, and I never really understood why. I'm not a parent. My parents didn't really sing to me when I was a child, so I don't know why I felt that. And then I read this amazing article by a musicologist named Andrew Pettit, and he said the most beautiful thing about lullabies. He said that when you're singing a lullaby, the text, the meaning of the words when you're singing to a young child kind of doesn't matter. That kid is not paying attention to the text or taking that in. They're still learning the language. What really matters is the music, which is quite soothing. But that means as a parent, as a mother, you can sing any text and no one else is there to hear you. So it is the only performance space that you can have that is truly safe, where you can say anything you need to say. And I thought that was just spectacular. And what are all the things that I wished I could say that don't quite feel safe to say in society, or at times in my life I didn't feel safe to say. And as a woman who experiences sexism, as a queer person who experiences homophobia, I have a number of things that I needed to get off my chest and still do, and this ended up being like a really good cathartic way of, it helps me grow personally and move on from some things, and it also is just fun because women are often told we're not supposed to have anger or rage, and we're supposed to just hide it. And that doesn't work. It goes somewhere. It goes out at other people or back at ourselves. And having an outlet for anger through my music that doesn't hurt anyone is like really nice.
So it's an expressive force as well. What's it like for you, Matthew? You told me, or I read somewhere, that in music you would like to have it more or less be static, but also moving forward. Does that have anything to do with feelings you want to express, or is it just a purely musical concept?
I guess it's both. Yeah, I think, music is one of those kind of quasi-ritualistic activities that exists in time and unfolds in time, but also kind of suspends our sense of time, which is why I think music is involved in most, if not all, religious traditions in the world, because there's some way that music can be used to sort of, make time function in a different way, and maybe give you some sort of access to another kind of time, maybe a sort of celestial time or divine time, or just not clock time. So I think music does that well. Other things do it well too. So is that a feeling? Well, I guess that gives, I don't know if that's a feeling. Maybe. I like the feeling of having a kind of forward charge. It's sometimes called directionality in music. It's maybe a kind of a narrative thrust, even if it's not a traditional narrative. But then also having that other kind of non-clock time sense of time suspension. So I think a lot of music does that really does that really well, and music that I love does that very well, like I don't know, Mahler or
Wagner, Parsifal.
yeah, or
Yeah.
Perrotin or Wagner. So it's something that I aspire to in my music. Yeah.
Speaking about time, I think you have a concept of time as well that developed more or less organically. Could you tell the audience how that worked for you? Interesting.
Yes, absolutely. So I grew up sort of out in the middle of farmlands and woods in western Pennsylvania, and I have realized that the landscape itself, the sort of visual of the landscape, has kind of imprinted itself on my brain, and the spaciousness of that, it drives a lot of my aesthetic goals. And then also the sounds of those environments and the immersiveness of them has, well, it's something I sort of strive for in my work.
But as a child, when growing up, were you already aware that these sounds were all around you, or was this something you became aware of later when you became a musician or a singer or a composer?
Well, I think there's been an increasing level of awareness. I mean, as a child, I was certainly aware of sounds and affected by them, especially lying awake at night, listening to all the sounds outside, and then the sounds that my house made. It was a wooden house, so it was always making noises, and having my imagination kind of spin out about what these sounds were. And then developing kind of favorite sounds over time, like the sounds of katydids in the summer at night singing in the trees, and how they sing in chorus. And not only are they singing in chorus, but then the sound is traveling from various distances to wherever you are, and it can be deafening. And it's such it's a simple sound, but it's magnified in this really beautiful way. So yeah, sort of registering things like that as I went on, and then putting it together with sort of like the visual landscape, and it's very kind of cloudy for a lot of the year where I grew up, and so kind of.
And the piece we heard tonight, "Long It Glows," at a certain moment the musicians lay down their instrument and they go to the piano and they pluck the strings, they sing into it. Is that some concept you remember from the past, or?
No, not exactly. It's just sort of like little beams of light kind of filtering in through something that's moving, and letting light, pass through it, at unexpected moments and in different places.
Okay. Again, I saw you nodding again. You grew up in Japan. Do you relate to this concept of hearing, being immersed in sounds that later on become music to you?
Yes. So I was nodding because I had a very interestingly contrasting experience to Jenny. I grew up in the middle of Tokyo, and my experience of childhood is that I'm, in retrospect, I think I can put it this way. I was born into this world in the middle of Tokyo, and nature, like trees, all the wonders and sounds of nature, all the beauty of it. I think that's where I came from before I was born, and so being a baby, being a fresh human being, all that stuff is taken for granted because it's so it's obvious. It's yeah, of course nature is immense and divine and beautiful. That's where I came from and that's what I am. And so actually as a child, what was incredibly provocative and sort of took all of my focus and concentration and engagement was all the human stuff, the trains. Trains blew my mind. It's just being born into this world. It's oh my God, trains! I can't believe we made that. Or planes and all this stuff. These human products of industry and technology and science were
in a productive or an unproductive sense.
Well, I don't know. I just remember having a sense of wonder. And being so excited and amazed about all of the human stuff, as if capitalism and industry were brainwashing me into their religion, And so the experiences that Jenny talked about, I had those much older when I was in college. You know,
And that was in the States.
yes, when I
Yeah.
moved to the States and, you know, got away from the city and, like, started hanging out in the woods, smoking weed and stuff, like, yeah, that's when I really sort of felt, for the first time in my life, I felt like this, just like being in the woods and hearing the trees swaying, creaking, and the way the wind blows through, like, various things and creates harmonics, like, that, you know, that's when it really hit me, and I was like, wow, this is so much more profound and so much deeper and more powerful than, like, trains, you know? So,
Okay. Annika, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in the country or in a city?
In between.
In between. Okay, in Midtown. Somewhere. So, but have you got this experience as well, that sounds were immersing you and were interesting to you already when you were a child?
I think that I've always been drawn quite boringly to more musical sounds. Most of my early memories are of music in one way or another. I think it always transfixed me.
Did your parents listen to country music by any chance?
They didn't listen to a lot of country music, but we did listen to a lot of folk music. And I was born in Scotland, and I got into Scottish fiddling, and we listened to a lot of Scottish traditional music in the house. And I love Scottish vocalists, the ornamentation, the inflection, the gesture of that, and that feeds really immediately into American country and Western music. There's a very exact lineage there.
Especially in the Appalachian area.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah. So, but you do play the fiddle, but you sing as well.
Yep.
Tonight you sang, but yesterday, I don't know if anybody else was there, somebody else, Christy Finn, who sang your piece tonight.
Christy Finn? No,
She's,
it was sung by Barbara with Askro Schoenberg, right after the
that was
opera.
not Barbara Cosey.
Yeah, it was.
Huh? Oh. Really?
She was wonderful.
Well, so I was wondering, she looked a bit different today. So, okay, But anyway, if somebody else sings you a song, do you think they can have the same inflections and the same depth of feeling put into that song?
Definitely. I mean, pretty much all the songs I write are like a custom tailored suit to me and my body. And so I hide all the parts that are not flawed about me, and then I showcase the things I can do really well. And I'm kind of a weirdo. I do weird things that other vocalists don't do, and I'm not classically trained, so there are many things that other vocalists can do that I don't do well. And so when I'm working with another vocalist, it's really a process of how do I make sure this piece can get in your body? And sometimes that means changing the music. It could be something as simple as changing octaves, but it could also be something like, let's completely find a different technique for you to use here to capture the same energy and the same narrative that I was intending in my body. So I think a lot of times vocalists are amazing and they can do almost anything. They're just phenomenally flexible instruments. But sometimes it's nice to just like be a bit of a tailor myself and, you know, get up there and do a few hems and seams for them so it makes them look good, but also makes them feel good. It's really important to me that people feel good making my music, that it feels natural and that it's just an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, and you have experienced it yourself. You are a very good amateur pianist, you say, but you do not perform yourself. Yeah. How do you write a piece? Do you work with the musicians, or do you just give them a score and see how far you get?
Yeah. Sorry, I actually tuned out for a sec. I was caught up on very good amateur pianist. That's my phrase, right? Yeah. I like to downplay it, and then people are surprised how good I am. That's actually my. Yeah. But sorry.
So when you write music, Annika says she writes it for herself more or less, and then she sometimes has to adapt.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't play most of the instruments I write for, like most of us. So, yeah. I guess I conceive of most music in a kind of short score where it looks, something like, I don't know, like The Art of the Fugue or something. It's just notes and then there's a process of orchestrating it. But yeah, a lot of that is about me at the piano, actually. So yeah, I compose really at the piano always, even if it's not piano music. If it's even orchestra music, I write
That's
it.
old-fashioned.
It is. I'm very old-fashioned. Yes. Yeah. Right
No,
down.
but it's okay. No, but do you often change things when you finish the score and they are going to play it? Like, for instance, the piece tonight, Unset.
Yes. Oh, do I change it? Well, I mean, I think I changed things when it was in the first performance in 2017. Yeah, but in terms of here, well, I mean, Willem, the conductor, who is really incredible, was doing a lot of sort of, almost like a mixer, the mixing board, a lot of adjustments just with the ensemble, just to sort of make the music most resonant in the space. And yeah, so often that's a question of sort of bringing down some dynamics and bringing up other dynamics, but that's just what rehearsals look like for, I guess, for most music, yeah. So.
Jenny, you are a performer too. And you often talk about the physicality of music. Well, the question to both of you, how important is the physicality of music? First you, Jenny.
Well, very. So, like you said earlier, I sort of, when I approach a piece, I tend to like get a vision of it as a complete thing from the outside, and then I need to kind of get close to it and figure out what it's made of and kind of translate what I find, into this world. And part of that is thinking about the instruments that I'm writing for and what they do and how they're shaped and how they produce sound and what kind of way they're vibrating and whether there's wind or a bow, and whether these things have kind of an inherent duration in them. And then I like to relate it back to just like the human body and breath and movement and kind of feeling things in that way. So that for me is it's for me it would be kind of hard to separate out the physicality from the thing itself, because I think I'm sort of feeling it in my body as a sort of multisensory object, and then just translating that.
And it helps you shape the music, more or less.
Yeah.
You speak about physicality too. That's been lost, more or less, in contemporary music. How do you mean that?
Oh, I mean, I think when I put it that way, I was speaking more about like disembodiment. And I think they're a little bit different. Like the physicality and embodiment share a lot in common, but they're not entirely the same nuance. And I guess in my past interviews, I've been critical of the sort of cerebral-oriented disembodiment of a lot of composed music in the past 100 years. And, well, I mean, that's pretty obvious to me. It's just like, music is inevitably, inherently, and fundamentally grounded in the body, and so to make that a low priority or not a priority at all, you might as well be doing something else.
Okay, that's a good one. To stop, because we've already done up our time, I would like to end with you, because speaking about cerebral music, you are a great fan of Dolly Parton's, because she has all these tiny little inflections in her voice. And you told me before that you have a wonderful impersonation of her, and you would love to present it. So please, Dolly Parton, impersonation. You can do it. You can stand.
Put any context to it or no?
Yeah, you can put a little context.
So something I really love about Dolly Parton, I think a lot of people, if you're unfamiliar with her, she's an American country and Western singer, songwriter, star, celebrity, and she's also kind of regarded as a bimbo, and a lot of people don't think she's very smart, nor do I think they really hold her music to the esteem of, say, Boulez or Stockhausen. And in my mind, it's one and the same. And actually, if you are able to zoom in and zoom in and zoom in on a vocal line of hers, the level of nuance and precision that you will find is completely comparable to Bula's, if not more sophisticated, quite frankly. And so she's able to do all these really gorgeous inflections with her voice that I think are just really beautiful. So that's a big part of the impersonation, I think.
Yeah, but you haven't
Okay, I'll shut up.
impersonated yet. No, we want to hear it now.
Oh, sometimes I go walking through fields where we walked long ago when the sweet used to be. And the flowers still grow, but they don't smell sweet as they did when you picked them for me. And when I think of you and the love we once knew, how I wish we could go back in time. Do you ever think back on old memories like that? Or do I ever cross your mind? Or do I ever cross your mind?
Woohoo! Thank you very much, Anneke Socolofsky, Matthew Rickert, Jenny Beck en Gent Tanaka. En u nog een fijne avond. May the best one win. Thank you very much.